good turnout this afternoon. And I'd like to point out that if you haven't grabbed one, we do have agendas available on the back table in the corner. If you'd like to raise your hand if you don't have one, I have 2 staff members in the back that can grab one for you. Okay, I'd like to announce who we have up here in front at our panel. We have, to my left, our board of directors. We have Director Fish. We have Board Treasurer Harman, Secretary Serber, President Waite, Vice President Komeski, Director Haller, and Director Greenberg. Thank you, Board, for joining us today. And to my right, we have our consultants that are with us this afternoon that are actually going to be making the presentation for us. We have Bill Chapman with Association Management Services, and we have Terry Green with Williams plus Patton. So thank you to the gentlemen for being here today. I'd like to go through some basic information about how today's workshop is going to go forward, just so that we all know how this is going to work. We have 2 major parts to the agenda this afternoon. We have one on the Harman facility on Harman Road, and the second part deals with the community center, the building you're sitting in right now. Mr. Green will be making the presentation this afternoon on the Harman facility, and Mr. Chapman will be making the presentation on the community center. The way this is going to happen is after the presentations are made, we are then going to open it up to a question and discussion with our board of directors here to the left. Following that, we're going to open it up to all of the community members so that you have input into this process. Now, it's really important. We are very interested in all the feedback that we can get this afternoon. But as you all know, we do have a tight time frame. So the Harman facility will wrap up at 2:30. We will then go to a short break, and then we will go on to community center and that discussion and that question and answer session. Now, for all of you that if we don't have time to get to a question because of the timing, we do have cards available at the back table. Also, if you're one of the shy members of our community and aren't comfortable getting up and chatting, you're also welcome to fill out a card with any comments or suggestions. We will absolutely get every single question answered. Maybe not today, but we will write the questions and a response, and we will publish them on the HVLA website. So I don't want you to think that any question or comment you have is going to go unanswered this afternoon. Okay, the other thing I want to mention, we are videotaping this forum today. So once we are able to get that translated into YouTube, you will be able to re-watch it. In case you feel like there was something important that came up that you might have missed, you can also refer your neighbors and other family members in the community that may not have been able to attend today so that they can also see what happened. Okay? Are there any questions so far?
Yes.
Yes.
I've read this, Duncan Nicholas, I've read this in the word conceptual, great word, is used throughout.
Yeah.
Now, what is the status of today? Do we as a community have any input into change? Or is the conceptual stage finished and you're presenting us with, not fait complete, but certainly 60, 70, 80% done? Are we going to be able to say, stop, and let's do something else, or is this it?
Today, we are having, it's the final phase of conceptual design. So we are at the final, yeah, it's that word again. We are still in the initial designing phases. However, today's goal is to get enough information that our architects can then begin to go vertical with the drawings so that we can start to see what kind of layouts that we're going to be having, what kind of options we may have available to us. But this is pretty much the last forum where we're going to be able to give final input into this design process.
So there is still input maybe
Yes,
from us?
Absolutely.
Okay, there's still some input. All right.
Absolutely. And just to clarify also, you know, we are going through another program right now. We're going through a food and beverage feasibility study. Many of the community members out here, I recognize faces, are familiar with that process that we're going through. But we are trying to incorporate changes into our food and beverage in order to find ways to help it become a more profitable institution substitution, because I know that is one of the major concerns with the community and the design of the Harman facility. So we are looking at that. You know, we're not going to have final information on that until probably late June or early July, when we actually get the results of that study. And it's my understanding that even at that point, we can still make some changes to that Harman design as far as size, etc., to accommodate what kind of feedback we get from those results. Any other questions before we get started? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Terry Green. Thank you, Terry.
Okay, so just give me a second here, I'll cue this up. Okay, so what I'm going to be presenting to you today is the Harman facility, and our feeling is this facility is really more or less a community bistro. It's a dining facility, meeting facility for the whole community, and it's some of the things that we were trying to do last time is, you know, reorganize the site and accommodate larger driving range, and through some of our exercises that we went through, we found out that for budgetary reasons, we weren't gaining a lot by moving the driving range. So we went back to the original location. The only difference is we backed up the area here to get a full 250, then reoriented it from, right now it's kind of oriented this way, we kind of rotated it around in this fashion to be able to keep more balls in the driving range and less on Harman. So you're still going to get them out there, especially if I'm on a driving range, you're going to get quite a few balls out there. But so anyway, a couple other things that we heard a lot about was the tennis facility, and we tried all kinds of ways to get 4 courts, because you really need 4 courts in order to have tournaments. So what we've done is taken a property across the street, we've added a 4th court here and a 3rd court right here. So now we have 4 tennis courts. Unfortunately, we're not able to put them all bunched together, but we felt that at least we get them all in the general vicinity, and we can make better utilization of this small piece of property across the street. So we've kind of connected the driveways and the parking. So we're showing roughly, let's see, 245 total parking stalls, which should be enough for when there's golf tournaments or easily daily play. There should not be a problem with parking. The only time it could be a problem is when you're having your concerts and that kind of thing. There's still going to be a need for parking along the street and shuttles and that kind of thing. So another thing that we wanted to make sure is that your barbecue area and this event lawn space was maintained, that we didn't take anything away from that, because it seems to be a very popular event that occurs there, and it's really for the community. And so we worked around it with the parking. We try to keep the parking down here. We try to move as much parking close to the front door, which is here's the building right here, the existing lake and the existing cart barn. That's the other thing we did is we kept the existing cart barn and kept it functional to help in the cost, lowering the cost as well. So these are some of the changes that were made since last time you saw. So basically the way this works is we have a primary entry drive here that comes along the back side of the driving range, and most likely this will all be fenced to protect people and cars from balls that might go astray. The There's a drop-off area right here. The front door is where that number 7 is. And so people can drop people off here, whether it's for dinner or for golf, or they go hang out in the bar. This is a drop-off area for that. And then the service, all the service comes in the back. If there's any kind of an event going on there, like a wedding, they can have a separate entry for wedding events that doesn't conflict with what goes on daily for the clubhouse itself. So we provided two entry points right here and right here for that. There's still a deck. A lot of you saw the deck that we wrapped around, which gives us a nice opportunity to have some outdoor seating areas off the bar and off the dining, so people can enjoy the lake and the beauty that you have out there outside. For those of you who have not heard us present this project in the past, this site was chosen because this is one of the first. We've done a lot of golf clubhouses, and we don't typically have an opportunity to place a golf clubhouse that's surrounded by golf, or in this case, I would call it like a park. We have beautiful trees, grass, and so this is the ninth fairway, the ninth green, the first tee box. So you have a great opportunity when you're in a dining experience to be able to see all this natural landscaping versus before you're pretty much looking at a parking lot when you're in a dining room. So this was something that we thought was special here, and it makes a lot of sense that when this building gets built, if the existing clubhouse can stay in operation so that there's no downtime. So it's nice to have that ability to be able to build a building and still keep operating the golf facility. So, let's see. So I'll move on to the plans. Okay, I'm going to show you two schemes, and they're basically the same. The only difference is scheme 1 is slightly bigger than scheme 2, and it's just the difference in the seating capacity of the two clubs. But the first scheme is the larger of the two, and basically it's about 11,470 square feet. But the primary entry is here. The golf shop is here. The starter box is right in this corner, and the bathroom's here. And one of the changes that we've heard many times people talk about in a current dining facility, that when people come there, that to get to the bathroom, you got to go through the bar. So we did some changes on the bar, basically had the bar turn its back on the dining facility, so the back of the bar is here. There's a wall here, there's a door. So this is all now, the bar is all self-contained with 15 stools. This is a cage storage, and it has its own kind of patio off the bar. So really, if you think about this area, all this area right here is all bar-related functions. Golfers, people want to hang out. We're proposing a kind of a fire pit. Kind of want to make it a place where people want to enjoy the weather you have here. It's north-facing, the lake's there. It's a nice place to be. You don't have to be indoors. And so we wanted to really activate this space, make it more part of the bar function. But then on the other side, over here on the dining side, we wanted to make sure that people had the ability to have a quiet dining experience. And they have their own outdoor deck area, so there could be some outdoor seating. And that way, there's no real conflict. There's a hall through here, but you don't have to go through this bar space to get to the bathroom. The kitchen's central to everything, and the reason why we do that is so it can serve the banquet facilities, the bar, it can serve the dining room itself. And so this scheme, what it does is the primary dining room is at the top here, because it's got a great view to the north and to the west. And we're thinking maybe a fireplace could be kind of a feature on this wall. And our thought was to have two-sided fireplace, one on the outside and one on the inside. So people that are sitting out here can enjoy the experience of that as well. There's a partition that separates this room. So in here you can get 52 seats in here. And this will be closed most of the time. But if you ever want to increase the size of this and have a little bit larger group, you can combine 18 and 19. 19, we have 148 seats in this space, number 19. And then number 20, it can range depending on if it's set up for like a wedding, you might want to have a head table or some kind of a community event where you have a table like we have here, where in 20 we can get somewhere between 56 and 64 people. But what's going to happen is with the current surveys and all the current needs that your community has right now, there's more seating here than what's necessary. And what's going to happen is when the food and beverage market analysis is going on that Ken mentioned, when that's complete, it'll start to inform the board and you guys on whether we should be building a smaller dining facility or a larger one. So this would be the larger one. It's basically the total seating capacity somewhere between 156 and 164 people can dine indoors when you combine all these rooms. The next one I'm going to show you is smaller. And it's more geared towards what your current needs are. But the plan basically, all this is basically exactly the same. The only difference is we only have 18 and 19, and we don't have this space. This space really could be also used if we open up this wall. It's really an outdoor space. It's got a roof over it. It's just not a conditioned space. But on nice days, you could open up this wall here, and you can share all three of these spaces and expand the dining capacity, and have the flexibility to expand the dining capacity of these spaces out to this outdoor space. So basically, this one totals from 108 to 116 people between space 18 and space 19. For golf tournaments, you need about 144. So, in a golf tournament, if you have the seats out here as well, and the roof over the top on a day like today, you could easily open up all three of these spaces here and have a golf tournament and satisfy those needs. Because this space really, you can get up to probably 48 to 50 people, depending on the kind of tables you put out here. We're showing 4 top tables right now, but you can see lots of space around here. We can increase that capacity and use these 8 top round tables out here as well. So along this wall, there's table storage. So the whole idea is to make this space flexible, let it grow and shrink depending on the event, what's actually going to be happening that day, and the needs of the community, how many people they're going to want to attend a certain event.
Tammy's ideas are maybe questions, but I want to do the rest of your layout. I think you're pretty much done. Except
Yeah. The golf shop? Yeah, okay. I probably didn't get into detail here, but on the golf shop, which is the green, I'm not sure if it's green, if you guys can see that, but the idea is to try to make it a real simple space. Currently, the golf shop is bent around a corner, and it's hard to merchandise goods when you're just jamming things around corners. And we have found that merchandising golf apparel it's more successful when you keep it simple and you don't clutter it up too much. So there's that's what this main space is going to be, and then the golf pros office is right here. So you can keep an eye on everything that's going on. The spaces along here, there's a storage room and a changing room here for people who want to change clothes. And then 24, there's a small staff room here on the corner. The other thing that we're talking about doing, I want to mention this kitchen. We want to design this entry here so that when the golfers are completing the 9th hole, they have a choice. They can head to the 10th, or they can come back to the clubhouse and use the bathroom and get something to eat. So our thought was, go back to the second line. Our thought was, so when you're done putting out on the 9th, you can come back here and you can park your their cart here and come in that main door. Come in this main door and actually pick up food from this counter. So that's kind of where the idea started. But then as we thought about it, we're going, why don't we design it so anybody can do that? It's not really designed for golfers, it's designed for anybody in the community that wants to get a pre-made meal. And this is just an idea. We're still kind of sorting this out with the food and beverage analysis that's going on. There's a demand for this. But our thought was, why not set it up so that people want to bring some food home, they can come in here. There's a grab-and-go case. There's a whole counter along here. So we're going to take this whole space and maybe turn this entry not into just like an entry lobby, but more like a grab-and-go bistro. Kind of dial it in so that there's a menu and people can come in, they can buy something, they can take off, because we understand that people do buy food to go as it is now. Why not increase that? Make it even more suitable for the whole community to be able to come in, pull up, grab something and take off. So that's a concept we're exploring. The plan that you see here is just the kind of the beginnings of that idea. We're anticipating of using this whole wall here as an opening and a service counter with somebody there with a menu behind them. So you're not looking into the kitchen, but there's a menu there and you can order something like walking in, not go all the way into the dining room. So that's something that we're going to want to know if that's of interest to all of you, whether it's a good use. I think that's it, Bill. So I could want to go some questions and.
I thought we could start with our board of directors and see if they have any comments or questions for Mr. Frank.
We're going to have more questions after it's all over and comments.
I just wanted a clarification on the seating capacity that you were talking. I wanted clarification on the seating capacity that you kind of went over quickly. So on the small design, you're saying it was 108 to 116, and did that include the outside area?
No.
No, okay. And then with the outside area though, that's when you were saying you could bring it up to 144
Yeah.
plus it would be needed,
Yes.
okay. And so then on the larger design, that could be done so that if we wanted to expand in the future, if we needed to expand in the future, we could actually enclose the
That's
space.
correct. We need to go back to that
Okay.
plan. So basically what she's saying is that when you look at the first scheme, this is the second scheme, the smaller of the two, you can actually at a later date put windows in here. You already have a roof and you already have a foundation. So just refinishing this space, and it can become enclosed space at a later date if the demand is there to have a facility that seats all three of these spaces for events. So the idea is to building that flexibility to design a building for you that can work now and work in the future as the demand could change. Because it's hard to say at this point.
Okay, and the other question was about the fireplace or something I sort of missed where you said you might.
Yeah, right here, there's a kind of as you walk in,
Okay, I see.
yeah, as you walk in, we're actually going to put a door here.
Uh-huh.
So you come into the dining room, and it'll help with acoustics to have a door here as well. But there's a fireplace on this wall that would be a feature fireplace, and then it'd be on the back side. You can also sit out here on this deck and enjoy the fireplace on the back side.
Okay, and then one other question was about the grab-and-go window that you are showing in the entryway. There had been talk about having a grab-and-go window on the outside so that golfers didn't have to come in with their cleats on and whatnot. So are we still looking at that possibility?
Well, from a functionality standpoint, we've done it before when you come in the back and you come in back here and you order at the bar from the bartender. But what happens is if you look at the site plan, there's a lot of backtracking. So So what happens is when you're done putting out your cards here, so in order to do that, you have to come back, then park here and walk in the back. We thought we didn't want people are coming this way, having people go this way, and then have, with the way cleats are now, and the way certain kinds of surfaces can handle, it's not metal spikes anymore. In fact, we're even getting away from plastic spikes. So it's starting to be more friendly to flooring surfaces, and we would design the flooring in that entry foyer so that there's not a problem. You're going to have golfers coming in the bar with their cleats on. It's just, it's a design thing that we have to address with the flooring services. Usually not an issue.
Bob?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Excuse me for my voice. Am I talking to this one? Okay. The main question I have is the barbecue, outside barbecue area. So if you could go to the site plan. Thanks, Terry. Is the plan to tear out what we have and put something new in, or is the plan to work around the barbecue area and tables and seating area that is there now, which is used largely with golf events, especially in the summer? What's the plan on that?
Well, right now, that's a decision that you guys are going to have to make. And in order, what we want to do is make sure that you have the opportunity to make that decision. So we made sure the plan worked around that space. And so it's right here. It's sort of under the tree. And so if you guys decide you want to do that, we think you still need the space. So if it's there or not there, you still need space for barbecue, whether it's a rolling kind or a fixed kind or whatever you guys decide to do. We have that flexibility to go either way.
Okay, also on the site plan, right by that turnaround, and I'm going toward the right, there's a brown area, and there's no number.
Oh, that's a trash.
Okay, I just was.
We always, from a kitchen standpoint, we don't like those things right by the front door because it doesn't smell very good. So we always put them far away from an operational standpoint. They got a little further to go to dump their trash, but we think it's a good compromise.
Can you show us clearly where that trash is?
Right here.
Oh, see, I wanted to have a little outdoor bathroom there for the golfers to finish 9 and cross the street.
We've had some discussion about that, snack bar, bathroom, and everything. And it's it can happen, but when you put utilities to that spot and you put the power, there's a lot of cost associated with that little tiny building. So what we were trying to do was come up with a solution that uses facility you already have, which was our solution, and come in the front door and use the bathroom that's there. We could certainly, if it's budgeted, we could certainly add one out there, but it's just, there's costs associated with it for a small one.
Still available to change.
Yeah, that's something you could add. The tenants facility, maybe they might need something like that there too. So it's just one of those variables that you have to play with.
Yeah, Terry, what is the seating capacity on the outside? Oh, go back to the site, scheme 2. On the outside of the deck, what's the seating capacity that could be used? Approximately.
I think with the fire pit, and I actually like, go back to this one, because I think this layout's better, because when you come in, the fire pit is on access to the doors as you enter. So these are 4 tops and 2 tops. It depends on how you want to do this. If you want these as like lounge chairs or individual lounge chairs, it's going to change that seating capacity quite a bit. But you're roughly 40 to 50 people out there.
And all the way around?
Well, here, this is more or less for the dining room expansion.
Oh,
So each of these are 4 There's 12 floor tops there, so. You may want to take these off right here that are against the windows, so these people have more privacy. Just take those off, maybe the deck shrinks a bit, help save some cost, and just put one row along the edge of the lake. That's again something that all the analysis, food and beverage analysis, will kind of tell us roughly how many they think they can see out there that makes sense.
Thank you.
Inexpensive space. Steve?
So I'd like to play devil's advocate for a moment. I'm going to put on my Warren Buffett hat as a value investor. And I'd like to ask a question about the siting. My recollection from last summer was that to move the building site from its current location to where you show here will cost roughly around $2 million, or just shy of that. So the question I'd like to pose is it really worth spending nearly $2 million to move the building? And what do you get in return for that? Could you take a very beautiful layout and actually keep it on site and do just as well and save $2 million?
I think the survey and analysis, that's a hard question for me to answer, but I think that the survey and the market analysis and feasibility study will help inform you to make that kind of decision. So it's a business proposition. It's a business, but you said you got to wear the Warren Buffett hat. It's this thing, even there's this thing penciled out, and that's why you guys have hired a good consultant that understands these kind of things, and we'll see in July. I think it's July, when they come back and see what they come back with.
I'd like to respond to that question also.
Actually, what Steve is talking about is some work we did last summer looking at what would it cost to do a remodel of the existing building, which is about 7,200 square feet, in its existing location. So what we found out is that as long as you stay within the existing foundations and renovate that building, you could in fact save that money, but you have an existing building. You cannot take that building, which is larger, and put it where the existing building is. The minute you expand beyond the foundation, you trigger all the code upgrades and all the parking requirements. So now you have this existing building really close to the road, no space to put parking. So it is not a real easy either or. In fact, you're not going to save $2 million if you build a building of this size, regardless of where you put it on the site. So the existing site just does not work for a building that's more than the existing building size. That's why it doesn't pencil the way you're thinking, Steve.
Can I just follow up on this for a moment? Let's say that you demolish the current building and then rebuild on the site. So it's not a renovation of the existing building, which is 45 years old. But you demolish, take out the debris, and then you build on site at either roughly the same size or slightly larger. If you do need additional parking, given you're now taking out the tennis courts and relocating them, you could always put the parking around on the other side. The only thing you're really sacrificing that I can see is the view. So instead of being surrounded by golf green, you're surrounded by parks.
They're good points. I mean, there's a lot of trade-offs that went into this design, and it's trying to address the tennis players, trying to address the golfers, trying to address the diners, and trying to come up with a design solution that really kind of that we feel works with all of them. And we want a facility, if you're going to attract people to come here and eat, the dining experience has to be dialed in. So that's part of the motivation. And the golfers need more length, and the tennis players need another tennis court, and we need all the parking. So it's kind of a whole series of those, all that input that came up with this plan.
Agreed. Is that in here? So,
Thanks, Steve.
Tammy, why don't you?
Okay, just to point out, we have 2 staff members in the back. We have Donna and Renee, and they can help funnel questions. I believe you have microphones?
Not yet.
Okay, we're going to grab 2 microphones from the board, and then that way we can actually hear all the questions.
Never mind, we got. Oh, there it is.
So if you raise your hand, they're going to take turns, one from each side of the room, until we get all our questions answered.
The lady in the back, this first.
Carolyn Graham, 752. Were you ever asked to create a design for a building on the existing site?
Yeah, we looked at some remodel options.
I mean, no, total.
You know, brand new
New
building
building.
there? No, we haven't been asked to scrub it or demo it and then start all over again.
So we have no idea what kind of building could be there and what the cost of just rebuilding on the site would be. Is that correct?
Right, and so some of the analysis too that you'll have to think about, that I didn't mention earlier, is there'll be about a 1-year downtime. So when you it takes about 12 months to build a new building. So they'll have to operate the golf facility with a trailer. They could do that. We've seen that, so they'll have to rent a trailer. So part of the financial analysis will include that as well. Demolition cost, which is in both schemes require demolition costs, but as far as the downtime and what the cost is to put a trailer in and to run a golf operation on the trailer, there's cost there.
Well, in my opinion, I think it's a major oversight to have not done some sort of design concept for a new building on site, the same square footage or maybe slightly larger. That's the only kind of building I would support.
Assuming we go ahead with the new building, is the plan to make the golf cart shack have the same exterior, the roof and wall?
Yeah, I think initially we were thinking that any repairs that need to happen would occur. If we switch over from gas carts to electric carts, we may have to expand it a little bit. But the idea was to give it some paint and just try to make it match the existing facility without rebuilding it from there.
So the same exterior, would the exterior of the new building would be stucco and the golf cart shack would be wood?
We don't know that.
It would be nice if they were the same.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the colors could work together. It's the same gable kind of roof line is probably where we're headed.
And reordering the driving range, are you going to increase the height of the netting over on the Sweetwood Court side?
I think so. I think even though we got 250 now in this lane, you're still going to need the netting here, but you're also going to need to put some netting up over on this side too for anybody that hooks the ball. So, I don't know. We haven't done any kind of analysis yet on the extent of where we need to have that, but that'll be part of the process.
I live in the house directly at the top of that screen.
Right there.
The one that's most furthest down toward the golf cart shack.
Right there.
Yeah. So I don't have anything in front of my back of my house, and I don't want it. So if you're reorienting the driving range so that I'm going to get more golf balls in my backyard, in my windows, then I'm not for that.
Yeah, it's hard to speak. Right now, the current driving range goes in this direction here. And so we've turned it slightly so it goes in this direction. And we thought it was as far as what we had before, you remember the old plan that we had it, the driving range area, tee out right in front of your house. We think this is a much more sensitive solution to your situation than what we had before. Because before, we weren't really gaining that much more distance out of it. They put it over here, and we also had to get rid of the apartment. So
It
this
seems
was
like
really a cost-saving exercise.
You're facing more into that oak tree now.
Yes, a little bit more. The oak tree's still there, it's not in
Blocks
line
the
with this.
entire driving range.
Yeah, it's just slightly rotated, but the edge of it still is, the oak tree, I would say, is the edge.
Hello, Ted Helminski, 7226. And in my previous life, I was a construction engineer for the federal government, and we did a lot of value engineering on projects that were, of course, designed with no eye to the cost, where just people put in, and it seems to me like this is exactly one of those projects. We have to consider that golf here is a socialized operation. It's paid for by the dues of the members, the other members who don't play golf. And it really does not make sense to do a Neiman Marcus design on something that's actually a goodwill operation. That's my input, that's all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with you. I mean, this is not going to be an Neiman Marcus building. It's going to be very modest, and it's already been reduced in size to allow it to function properly in its current setting and to be the most functional plan that we've been able to come up with.
Well,
So-
once again, the most value engineered solution would be to rebuild it on the current site.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know if I'd go there yet. And
Well,
I
it would
think
be good
I
to
think
take
we
a
could
cost estimate of that.
Yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that, because what you're gonna have, you still have foundation costs, you have demo costs, you have the construction of building costs. The only thing I think that you might save in is extension of utilities between here and here. So there's some utility savings and not having to put that much more distance in.
As well as the landscaping costs, as well as the moving the,
Well, you're gonna have, this whole thing's gonna be disturbed with the demo building.
yeah,
so
but
still
also
have-
you'd save the money for moving the tennis courts, for moving the golf, for changing the,
Yeah, we're not moving the tennis courts.
We're adding.
We're only adding, these tennis courts are current, we're just adding one here.
for reorienting the driving range and all of that. Anyway, I would like to see an analysis of building on that site before we spend all our money moving to the other site. Thank you.
I'd like to address a little bit the driving range. What many of you may not realize that may have not attended board meetings last year is that we've actually had problematic situations, safety concerns with our driving range and the layout that it is. Balls going into Hartman Road, hitting cars, driving down the roadway. We've also had threatened litigation and stop mail from our mail carriers because of the safety concerns. Those are issues that hit everybody that lives in that section that collects their mail or drives down that road. So unfortunately, one of the things we have to do is reorganize that driving range, because we have to create a safe place for our mail carriers to deliver mail and a safe place for people to drive or walk along Hartman Road.
May I respond to that, Connie? There is a less expensive option, I believe, should be investigated. You could put netting over the mail facility. You could put netting over whatever now is in danger at a much lower cost. I'd be surprised if that a less expensive option couldn't be found to handle those safety concerns.
You're right, Director Greenberg. There are a lot of options. I was just explaining as to why that's part of the design option there is for safety issues. Next question.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I just wanted to ask a question, if you were to redo it in the spot that it's at, and you mentioned lightly about it closing down for a year, just about the golf income have to work out of the trailer, but what about the food and beverage department? Doesn't that all, the golf and food and beverage work together to bring in a lot of income too? So you'd be moving all that while that's being
Could I respond to that comment as well? Because the food and beverage operation currently loses $160,000 a year, you actually would have a net gain because you wouldn't be subsidizing. The other advantage of demolition and stopping the restaurant for a year is you have a complete reset, which would actually make it easier to envision, to basically implement the sort of changes that we've all been talking about, which the food and beverage consultant will be providing.
Thank you. I think that's really brilliant. Hey everybody, one at a time, and I respect the fact that you like to join in with the camaraderie thing and everything, but it makes it difficult for everybody to get their input in the same, and treat everybody the same way. So let the comments please be made, and so that everybody can hear and we can address all the issues one at a time. Thank you.
Hi, George Burrows, 3931. We live in the house that now is oriented at the end of the driving range, so we're dead on. If you hit the ball straight, it's going to come right through our bedroom window. So we have a lot of balls fly into the yard. We have 2 nets and a fence, and thank you very much. It's not going to make any difference unless, and all golfers are going to hate the idea of this, but lots of ranges have, because of the new equipment and the new balls that fly further, have resorted to the 75 to 80% flight balls that only travel that far and then would fall short of the 250 and drop. So that there are lots of kids now that hit over our roof routinely. And everyone in the 4 houses that extend from the water services building on down Hidden Valley Road have now been hit on the fly. So we've all been hit by golf balls. So Tammy, when you talk about the mail carriers, we had a very little voice. I mean, my introduction to Wayne, our, I think, very worthy golf pro, was to scream at him as loudly as I could when our bedroom window was smashed by a golf ball. My girlfriend went out on the deck to see what happened, and she then got hit on the fly. So this, you've got to somehow cater to all of us. So please look into the 75 to 80% flight of the range balls, because it's the only way to deal with that in a coherent way that gets everybody safe. I mean, the association has no apparently legal liability in all of this, but certainly there's a moral one. So thank you.
Okay, I have a question, but I have quite a few questions, so I don't know if I'm allowed to ask the board at this point, or is it later on in this meeting? But one of the questions is, you hired a construction management company to manage this, and one of the, according to the David Sterling construction management, has to check for incomplete, substandard, or incorrect work, verify that materials match contract specifications, and participate in a final job walkthrough. These are just some of them. What experience does the general manager that you hired have to do this? Has he ever been?
First of all, we haven't hired a construction management company.
Okay.
We aren't even in the phase of talking
Associate?
about construction at this point, nor are we in the phase of talking about any of the
Okay,
financing
so
at this point.
clarify what happened last week, because this associate management services, aren't they going to be overseeing this?
No.
Okay.
The construction you're talking about?
Yes.
No.
Will they be?
They will not.
Okay. So we asked for bids last week and were denied that, and you hired this company without other bids, which.
Not for construction management.
Okay. What was this hired for?
I think that was already discussed at the previous meeting and as part of the consulting process. So it has nothing to do with construction. Like I said, we haven't even gotten into that phase of the project. And when we do get into that phase of the project, the contract that you're talking about will no longer be cancel because that's not part of the job, is to
Okay, but
assist
when
with
you do
construction.
these kind of things, wouldn't you request for proposals? Wouldn't you take
That's not
everything?
dealing with the issues that we have here in front of us
So
right
that
now,
we
but
can
we're
say
dealing
on-
with this concept design, okay?
Okay,
Let's keep with the issues dealing with the
well, the
conceptual
issue is
design.
I didn't get to
and what's
vote. That's the issue for me. I didn't get to vote. And I'm a member here too, and we're not all golfers. We're just regular folks with families.
Joint
And we
ground.
would like to see $6.9 million put into something for our children, for the lake.
When we
The
get
lake
to
is
that
healthy.
point, which will be probably on the September 30th, that'll be the time to bring those issues up.
And will you give us, according to the Sterling Davis Act, the
When
right
we
to
get to
vote on
the
this?
September 30th thing, that'll
Okay.
be the time to bring these issues up. for the
Because it
voices,
seems like you're going
whether or
ahead
not
without
you
us.
whether or not you want the board to vote for the project or not. That's the go forward time right now. We're still in the design phase. And yes, we are still going forward with this conceptual design area and trying to build a product out of it.
So, Bill Waite, are you saying that we will have the right to vote on these
I didn't
buildings?
say you'll have the right to vote. I said you'll have the right input into the meeting on September 30th.
Okay, but according to the Davis Sterling Act, we do have the right to vote. And what
It's
I'm
not the point
asking,
that we're here to discuss right now, so unless you have some more related to this, please move on.
okay, I have some more.
Okay, I mean, related to the conceptual design
we
that
can't
we
fill up-
under discussion.
If we can't fill up 10 tables at the old building, how can we fill up 108 to 116?
I think the feasibility study, that was the reason we hired the company, the consulting firm, to bring in the feasibility study so that we can answer those questions and find out what is practical, what is not. We're doing that on your request.
Okay, well, I was assured by the main office that we would be allowed to vote on this. And now it seems like you're planning on how many seats we're gonna have in there, and it seems to be all about the golfers.
Okay?
I'm just
That's
regular
your
folks.
opinion, and that's fine, and I respect that. Let's move on.
That's the truth, though.
It's the truth. You're
Next.
doing the design, you're starting without us.
No. Next. We aren't designing the building yet. Okay? All we're trying to do is come up with a conceptual design that may work. Okay, if that's all your questions, then let's pass the baton on to somebody else who has a question
No,
to ask.
okay, one more. Where
Okay.
do you come up that we could spend that kind of money on just one thing, when we have all the other things we need to take care of? How do you justify that?
Thank you. Next.
Oh, thank you. Just to go what I heard you say was, we will have the right to express our opinion about whether or not the board should vote this in. That's, to be clear?
September 30th, we decide whether or not we want to proceed on to the next phase. Yes.
Okay. So for me, normally you go ready, aim, fire. I feel like we're kind of going ready, fire, aim right now. I feel like you're telling me I gotta eat this cake. What kind of frosting do you want on it? And we don't want the cake at all, I don't think, is the way I feel. I'm really interested in the frosting, like the tennis courts and the lake and all those things. Those are great. But it's being presented in a way that we're doing this, and if you want these things, you're asking my opinion on something I don't really want at all. And to reiterate what you said, I think the law is really clear that we should, as a community, be able to vote on these issues. I'm not sure the legal opinion you got or from where that was from that says we don't have the right to vote, but it's not just our CCNRs, it's the California state law that says this is our right.
Do you have any input on the design phase that you have up here?
Yes, I love the frosting and the cake.
Good, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric Soder's from 7857
Yeah, thank you very much. Sandy, I think, does anybody else? Dave back here? Yes, sir?
Yes, Will Tuttle, 61515. And my comments, basically, Terry, thank you for the presentation and the understanding of this new building. I'm also just basically disturbed and concerned about the procedure that the board has been following on this whole thing, and I'm feeling that it's a small percentage of the community is trying to ram through something, and we're hoping that we won't say anything, basically, that we'll just go along, and we're too busy, we don't have enough time to question this. And so I think all of us, on some level, should take maybe a moment and realize that we're all going to be basically at some point at that moment when we leave our bodies and leave this planet and look back on our lives and realize the most important thing we can do while we're here on this planet is to be loving and kind and caring of others and not only pursue our own
Let's
selfish
keep your
interests.
comments directed towards the
Well,
concept of the planet phase. I'm going to leave this planet plenty early, and I don't need to talk about that. And to get back to what you're talking about beforehand, this phase and this design and this concept and everything has been kicked around by this association for 10 years. So this isn't something new that's been coming out.
Okay,
This has been going on for 10 years.
Right.
So
there's never, the board should
please keep
use
your
to have a
comments
survey.
related to this issue.
The board should use to have a survey to find out what the people really want. There's a lot of people who don't have the funds to pay for all these things when there's so many other things that are also necessary for the 90% of the people that don't use the golf course. So I just think it's honorable for us to not try to push something too hard, but to really be open to feedback, to try to build community, to stop being divisive, to listen to each other, to be respectful of what the community really wants, and to have an active, take an active role to really understand and not just keep pushing in an abusive way. I think it's very abusive to just keep forcing more than what really most people want to pay for this. And I think
Thank
we should
you.
slow down. Thank you.
Who's next? You've got the mic. Sandy?
Sandy Bayless, 692. When we did the first of these series of buildings, which was the admin building, which had kind of been Quonset, so I'm glad they did that first, the employees had a decent, safe, and sanitary place to work. However, it was years before we had landscaping and adequate lighting out there. So what I want to know is what isn't included in the initial doing of this building and such. For instance, does it include irrigation, landscaping, painting and designing, lighting, furnishings, that sort of thing. I need to know what is not, I have to also raise money for.
Yeah, what this is a conceptual design, this phase, but as we go from conceptual design to schematic design, design development, construction drawings, then the construction, during that process, landscape architecture is taken care of, which is for the irrigation, and interior design, which is the furnishings and the finishes on the inside. Then there's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering, structure. There's lots of parts and consultants that, as this project moves forward, we would need that input. So all that stuff would get designed, and so the cost models that we're having a contractor estimate for us includes all those parts that you just mentioned.
Thank you. Ned? Yes, sir?
My name is Emil, I'm occupying Park Hill Drive. I won't talk about the planet. I'd like to discuss something that's occurring in this room here, as I feel. And I'll address the design. The design, in my estimation, is in contention by a lot of people here because they haven't heard this addressed as a priority concern. So I think that most people here, or a lot of people, would be liking to hear more about priorities. And then from there, we start, discussing so-called design. So it's very difficult for a lot of people to kind of reflect on this at this point, although it's very legitimate. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we next?
Here in the middle. In the middle. Right here. See on my You raise your hands. Raise your hand, sir. Thanks. All right, to you. There you go.
I would like to say this is the architect.
Jim, give your name, please.
I would like to say this on a new Harman facility. I think you are deluded in your design. And that's just what the community feels. 15% of the community use the golf course, and 5% are members. Do you understand that?
Jim, you didn't give your name, and we'll move on to the concept thing as well. I understand the theory that you're talking about. Move on to the concept thing, or what is part of our real discussion.
Okay, the concept thing. Have you designed a remodel of the present building?
We've looked at, as an option, to take the current building and reconfigure it, to try to figure out how we can better utilize it.
Did we see a picture of that?
Yeah. Why don't you just go down there and look at it?
And I think that was also published in reviews.
It's available. It's already been published. You can.
All right, next. Jim, what's your last name? And Harold. Harold? Thank you. George?
This one's, it's George Burroughs, and this one's about tennis. The fourth court is going to be expensive, the one across the street. It's going to be expensive to light separately and everything. And we've been building to a great series of trade-offs that are going to be inevitable here to have that fourth court be built, perhaps without lights in the first phase, but to get it built in the first phase rather than inevitably have it slip to the second phase because of cost overruns and that kind of consideration. So, you know, we're willing to barter that and think about that as something much further down the road. So it can be used as a teaching quarter or overflow for tournaments, but not necessarily, you know, full tilt booking in the first phase. Thank you.
Understood, thank you. All right, who else had their hand up? Bonnie?
Good afternoon. My name is Bonnie Thompson, UBO 191, and I want to thank Mr. Terry. Thank you for your wonderful conceptual design. I'm not a golfer. I'm one of many families here that are multi-generations. I have a granddaughter here because I felt it was important to be here today. I am excited about what I see. I'm very excited.
Thank you. Ted Helminski.
One at a time, please. Yes,
Ted Helminski, 7226. Knowing, once again, having some experience, I know architectural work is very expensive. And I think that proceeding with design work, even conceptual design work, without having a vote so that you will know the budget that the architect can work from, because he needs to know how much money he has to spend, without having a vote is wasting money.
Okay. Thank you. Back to the design. Anybody else got any comments on the design?
I'd just like to commend everybody for actually knowing their UBLs.
Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick Sheehy, 1735. I'm very interested in the decks around the outside, especially on the left side. How wide is it? Hopefully, it's real wide, and not just a catwalk. So all the way around, what is your deck? I suppose question.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but right now, as you can see from the site plan, in the building location, we're already pushing the lake on the deck, and let's see, let's go back to the site plan. And part of it would be, right now we're showing a corner of it, could be on piers, and it would be over the lake. On this side here, there's a nice row of trees along the ninth green, or ninth fairway. We're not exactly sure how much we can get out of it. A lot of it's going to be the demand of the seating capacity for indoors and outdoors, because one of our ideas that we've done in the past is we can also let the roof overhang this deck and can expand the indoor seating capacity from here out to this deck as well, not just this side. So part of that's going to evolve out of information coming to us and demands for more seating or less seating. It just, I mean, we may not end up with, we may not need any of this deck at all here. We may want to just put it all over here and have all your dining over here and make this just uninterrupted views towards the trees, because indoors, those banquet rooms might be nicer. We're still looking through deck rail and that kind of thing. So it's just, as part of those, that exercise we'll go through based on the needs and the demand of banquet space.
Yeah, I think both those ideas sound great. The whole idea of big deck is really, really good market.
It's cheaper space.
Yep. Really good apartment design.
Put some misters out there and it makes it nice.
Thank you. Okay.
He was asking about the width of the decks, is that correct?
U.S. I don't have that dimension.
But if your legend is pretty close, they're about 20 feet along the left side.
Okay.
And, right, just looking at your legend,
Oh,
it looks like they're about 20 feet along the left side and then drop to 25 along the back side.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Nancy Foss, 6613. Thank you, Terry, for all the work you've done. Thank you to the board for all the work you've done. You guys have, as Bill Wade said, you guys have been working on this thing for 10 years. What Terry is showing us today, I saw this in July, in September, in October. I mean, we've been talking about this here a long time. But what I want to say mostly is I'm really disturbed by the hostility. Yeah. Apparently, golfers are useless, spoiled brats, not part of the community, shouldn't be catered to, they're very selfish. And has anybody been in this building that is current down there right now? It is in bad shape. It has been falling apart for years. And I would just like to see nicer people talking about these plans that our board has been working on for a long, long time now.
Since day one, and I think that if we could all take the word golf clubhouse out of our vocabulary, because it really is a community clubhouse, and we want that dining facility attractive enough and nice enough to where people that are not golfers, they're going to be the major patrons here. They're the ones that are going to come and support this, and so, you know, we have to operate, we have golf operations, that's why we're shoving them all, sorry Wayne, we're shoving them all over here. And the community is going to be all over here, they're going to take advantage of this wonderful setting and have a wonderful dinner, brunch, and the food. The goal is to get the food dialed up, get the menu changed, you know, it's going to be different. It's not, if you continue to do what you're doing, it's going to continue losing money like you have. It's got to go, it's got to get better.
After the last one, we are not trying to say the golfers are useless. That's not what we're saying at all. We want the golfers happy, but we matter too. And we should have had that opportunity to vote. I believe that you're breaking the law. I believe that we should have all had the input in this. I'm not trying to be hostile or anything else. I just feel that we should have we all live here. We all have a part in this community. And we do not have that kind of money to sit at a whoop-de-doo golf course.
Thank you. And your comments are appreciated. Bob Komeski, 3236. I've been on the board now for 2.5 years. This project has been on our plate since before I was on the board. Do I play golf? Yes. Am I a golfer? Well, that depends on what your definition is. I'm also many other things. I'm a member of this board. And this board is, our fiduciary duty is to the entire community. Anybody who has been to a concert on the green at our current facility has seen what a draw this facility is for the entire community. You have hundreds of community members there. You have kids with all kinds of different activities playing around on what's there now. What the idea is to try to make this facility better for everybody. With a better restaurant, with a design similar to this, with a little more upscale restaurant, we will be able to serve the community members better. It has nothing to do with golf. It has to do with the community. We want a place, I want a place, as a board member and as a community member, that I can be proud to take my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren to. I can't do that with the current facility. We can't. And anybody here who says they're proud to take their family into that community, or into that facility, I don't know what facility they're going to. The Easter brunch was fantastic, but we need a facility that benefits the entire community. So that's what we're talking about. I'm looking at this as what kind of legacy, what are we leaving for our kids? What are they going to have? So that's the design that I think is going to benefit our children, benefit our grandchildren, and benefit our great-grandchildren. And yes, I have all three. So that's why I like the concept that they're going, the direction we're going in. I think the conceptual plan meets those needs. And that's why I'm in favor of going forward.
My name is Jurgen Aller, 3433. I'm a board member now for almost 3.5 years. We worked on our buildings, both buildings, not just the Harman building, but also the community center for a long time. We had long hours in our board meetings to decide which way we want to go. And here again, I have to give a lot of credit to our former general manager, Mr. Chapman. He worked his butt off in order to get us where we are right now. And of course, I made some notes all for the comments that were made. And some of them, like this one gentleman said, about 50% of the community are golfers. And then I heard a lot of other stuff about the golfers. I mean, sometimes it makes me sad, because that is not for the golfers. And Terry, could you tell me how much square footage is for Wayne's little cage back there?
In his office?
Yeah.
I think it's 11 foot by 12 foot.
Okay, so this is for the golfers. But if you look at the concept here, this is a large variety for the community, not for the golfers. And I'm kind of sad to always have that part of the golfers and part of non-golfers. That has nothing to do with the golfers. As my colleague here said, this is for our family. And when you go out and you go in a nice restaurant, and you can have a nice restaurant here, that's for all of us. And most of the time in our board meetings, we hear the food is no good, this is not good, this is not good. But how many people really go there from our community and eat there and try it? Because they're doing the best they can to serve our community. So if you look at the square footage again, it's a lot for our community, for all of us, not for the golfers. Thank you.
Carolyn Graham, 7852. Given that you put a lot of work and thought into this scaled-down design, what is the current estimated building cost for everything? Can we relocate the driving range, this new building? What are we looking at in terms of price tag?
I'd hate to put that number on right now.
Well, it's important.
Well, the problem is, unfortunately, we don't have
all the numbers sorted out to give you an accurate answer. When we scaled it down, we noticed that there was some additional cost with the deck and some things that don't seem to make some sense. So there's some numbers that went down and some numbers that went up. I don't know if you want to share where we're currently at, it's fine, but I hate to do it until we get the full thing scrubbed out, but that's information you're going to know.
We can do approximately.
Oh, yeah.
Caroline, we can do this approximately. As you know, one of the things the board decided when they started looking at different options is it was really hard to evaluate something like this without having an order of magnitude idea of what it's going to cost to construct. So we've actually had a commercial builder that's involved in similar projects for many, many places, costing us out as we go. And as you remember, we started out at just this facility cost of in the order of about $7.3 million. The one you see before you now is probably in the range of $5 to $5.5 million for this, including everything, the furniture, the landscape, the parking lots. You know, actually for that little bit of $5 million, 5.4, whatever it is, the building's about 3.4. And so the rest of it is all the site work, the utilities, the parking lots, and everything else that goes along with that, including the tennis courts and relocating the practice areas and everything. So we've come down about $2 million since we started this process, and we're right in that area that we were talking about last fall in September, of about $5 million, $6 million, including this building. So
How much money
that's
is
order of
already-
magnitude.
That's ballpark. Carol?
Yeah, I understand. And I still think that the building that would best serve our entire community is to build a new building on the current location.
Thank you.
And how much money is already saved for that?
Wait, one at a time, please. And right now, Mr. Greenberg has the floor.
Thank you. So, thank you all for the input. I think it's been very valuable. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Bill and Tammy, for all your presentations and moderation. I'd just like to say a few things. I'm not going to read a statement that I wrote out several days ago, but I'd just like to say a few things. I think part of the real issue here is process. It's not us versus them. It's not they're trying to take away our money. They're trying to take away our facility. If the process had been well planned and well delineated from the beginning, long before I got here, I'm only here 2 years, I think this building would have been built already and everyone would be happy. The problem, as I personally view it, not only as a board member, but as an individual resident here, is that this has been done in a way, for a variety of different reasons, in a way that has not satisfied anyone. I think that's tragic. Something has to be done about this poor building. The issue really is what and at what cost, not whether to do nothing or not. That's a straw issue here. The community must support this as the members ultimately pay for it. That is enshrined in Davis Sterling in, unfortunately, very poorly stated language. Lake Wildwood and Lake of the Pines are sister communities going through similar processes, being a member vote essential. But you can accomplish that and accomplish all the other objectives we've discussed by coming up with a plan with input from the community and then sell it, market it so that we all are proud of it. We all feel that we can afford it. Because if this building is built in a way that 80% of the community thinks it was built over their objections, those people are not going to eat there out of resentment. It's basically a prescription for failure for the building and the restaurant. So you have to find a way to get the community as a whole to buy into this so that everyone is satisfied.
Kurt?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Kerry, for your hard work and your excellent presentation. So it has occurred to me that by the time of our November board election, we will have all of the information needed to make an informed decision on going forward to build. The design plans will be complete, so we will know how much they will cost, so that we will know what the buildings look like. The cost and funding analysis will be complete, so we will know how much they will cost and how we will pay for them. The food and beverage feasibility study will be complete, so we will know if we can operate a profitable bar and restaurant business in the new facility. The lake sediment study will be complete, so we will know how much money it will cost to restore our lake and how we will pay for it in light of this project. Therefore, because this is a multi-million-dollar project, and because it is a once-in-a-lifetime project, and because it is just plain the right thing to do, I propose that we conduct a vote of the members with the November election to approve moving forward with construction. As with the election of the board of directors, the vote would simply require a majority vote of the quorum to approve. Okay. I propose that the ballot should include 3 simple questions. Should we build the Harman facility as planned? Yes or no? Should we remodel the community center as planned? Yes or no? And if both are approved, which should be done first? The Harman facility or the community center? Because it will be included with the board election, the cost of the vote will be small. To get the ball rolling, I will submit a board action request for consideration at our May 22nd board meeting to conduct a vote of the members with our November election. By that time, we will have Cindy on board as our general manager, giving us the benefit of her valuable advice for our consideration. This will give us all plenty of time to all pull together toward a favorable outcome. Your board and administration will be incented to do everything in our power to win the hearts and minds and the pocketbooks of the majority of the members in order to gain their approval in the November election. This means that all meaningful opposition will be addressed with logic and fairness, and we will fulfill our fiduciary obligation to the community and to our association. Thank you.
We're going to keep all these comments and everything on record for the video that's being taken of these proceedings. We need to take a short break so that we can give our video manager time to change his tape and get us back on schedule. So let's take a 5-minute break and keep your questions. We'll start in with the question and answering again as soon as we convene. 7 minutes.
Okay. You've been way over time. Your footage, dude.
All right, Stephen, you over here? Who else are we missing? Uh-oh. Terry, you doing okay over there? All right, Jurgen just made a mess, so wait a second for him to clean up his, oh, it's already clean now, you just spilled water. Oh, okay, I understand. All right, we're going to keep keep on to the schedule. I was supposed to cut this off at 2:30. And, but I did mention that I would take one or two questions after the break. So I'm only going to take two, so it doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to listen to people who haven't spoken before. And two questions, and the rest of them write down, and Tammy will collect them, or staff will collect them, and they'll be responded to where on the website.
We're going to post all of the written questions and all of the responses on the HVLA website.
Okay.
Is there a way we can post it to the websites that have to do it here?
Currently, our website doesn't have that capability. I really wish it did. You are welcome to email me if you would prefer. You can reach me at gm@hvla.com.
Thank you.
All right. Phil?
Phil Wales, UL 692. I did want to comment on the last drawing that was up there, or the one that had a little bit smaller square footage, but had a covered area. And the comment being that the covered area would provide knowledge for future expansion, but also on events. You could use that as a little bit more outdoor oriented for people who had families with little children, where they wouldn't be as disruptive for people being inside a covered area. And I'm really thinking about, for those of you who have been to the Green Youth Theater, Sonoma campus, whole back end of that facility opens up. You have an expansive area on the lawn where you can listen to music without actually being inside a covered building. Cut down on the cost of heating and cooling for the core building, also cut down on the square footage. So the idea being a smaller core, but possibilities for outdoor orientation back to the building, to expand the use of the building. If there were other opportunities to use that same concept, either going towards the bottom of behind the doors at the top. So my question was, how many square feet, and this proposal is up here as compared to the other drawing?
But Phil, you bring up a great point, and I probably should have been a little clearer earlier, but this scheme is, since it's a smaller building, the only square footage we're counting here is the conditioned space. This patio space, 20, is, even though it has a roof overhead, it's a non-conditioned space, but it also could be used and double as a stage, kind of as Phil mentioned. It really sets it up nicely so that this whole area right here, which is your outdoor event lawn, concert space, you can have a band up here, and it has power, has lighting, has a stage, you can have performances, outdoor performances, bring lawn chairs out there. You don't have that right now. You have a space, but you don't have a stage. So we thought, okay, let's just put the deck back here, and we'll just double it as a stage or an outdoor deck that can be used from the inside. So it has dual purpose. Does that make sense?
All right, one other comment, and Phil, I like that, but Anna heard what you said, that she would really have your tip. You wanted her back out of the way, I understand. I know your granddaughter too well. Barbara?
Hi, Barbara Parker, 641. I would like to know how come nothing has been said about the renovation instead of the building, instead of getting a new building. Why can't we renovate?
I think that has been the topic of many prior discussion, and the consensus pretty much has been to go forward with this type of design at the present time. We have talked about the renovation in the past. In fact, we even had the area drawn up some plans and everything that, if I remember correctly, were even published in the Views. I had to double my reading glasses in order to be able to kind of make out what was there, but by the same token, it was still there and addressed.
But who made the decision not to renovate it? The board?
I think it was a consensus of the board at the time to move along this direction. Again.
Okay, I think the community should have some input. And what is the problem with not allowing us to vote? I don't understand.
That's not a topic that we're going to take out tonight. Barbara, I understand, we've disagreed on this before, both over the mic and on the street, so there we go, thank you. All right, any other questions that you have affecting this particular phase? As I indicated, Jack, I'm sorry you're late, I cut it off, I said that you would have to put them in writing and they will be down, and we're gonna stay on schedule and take it to the next phase.
Make sure that I speak. May I ask a question?
No. You can put it in writing and ask the question, and it will be addressed. Like we
Question
said.
about procedure, not what you're talking about at the moment. Now, do you want to have an adversary proceeding, or can I just ask a straight, simple question about what's going to happen
Is
now?
this just to buck the system, or is this that important?
About what's going to happen now for the rest of the day.
For the rest of the day, we're going to move on to the community center and that other area up there.
What I'd like to have you answer is there going to be an opportunity for me to say something later, or
Related
is
to
there
the
going to
community
be no
center,
more
yes.
opportunity for us to say
No. There will be, in fact, we're not moving on altogether yet anyway. We're finishing this out for today. There are going to be other town hall meetings relative to this. And like I mentioned before, September 30th is when we come to the big meeting as to whether or not we're moving forward.
That's not my question. The question is, since I can say nothing now, will there be an opportunity for me to say something later in this
Jeff, you
day?
say something all the time anyway. Yes. No problem. We never cut you off.
You just did.
No, I cut you off today and for this particular topic and meeting. Yes. Now, no thank you. Put it in writing. Give it to Donna, please. All right, let's move on to the next phase, the community center.
Terry's colleague, Greg Tonello, was going to be making the presentation about the community center today, but Greg threw his back out and was unable to get out of bed this morning. So we could have put him on a trailer and brought him over, but we decided that I would give the presentation that Greg was going to give. We also had a snafu in that we did not get the PowerPoint made, so you get to look at a draft Word document on that. But the community center, we have actually spent more time, more of Terry's time, more of Greg's time, more staff time, more board time, talking about this building than we have the Harman facility. This building has been one of the most difficult parts of this whole planning process of trying to figure out what to do with this particular building. And one of the reasons for that is it gets relatively low use in its current incarnation. 70% of the use of this building is a swimming pool. And the other part of the use, well, we have almost 80,000 people who use the restaurant facility in the Greenview room every year. And we have 2,000 to 3,000 people who use this facility for meetings, banquets, weddings, and that type of thing. So that is a real issue that the board has struggled with, and we're really trying to figure out what's the best future for this building. So back in January, we were actually looking at our back last fall, after we finished up, I think we went through 4 iterations of remodeling this building, and we went through a couple iterations of potential replacement of this building. And at the end of the day, we basically had, we could remodel this entire building for a cost of about $3.3 million, or we could tear this building down and replace it with a new, smaller recreation center for about $2.3 million. So that's kind of where we were last fall. But in January, the board decided to pursue a third option, which we'd like to talk about today. And that third option is to stabilize this building by doing a lot of the reserve fund items that we already have in our reserve fund, that we already have funded, but that we have not done because we couldn't make up our minds what we want to do with the building. So the idea is go ahead and do those things and stabilize the condition of the building so it doesn't continue to deteriorate. The second part of that would be to enhance the functionality. What can we do with this building to make it work better for the kinds of events that are currently happening and the kinds of events that might happen if you had a building that worked better for the users of the building. And then the third idea is, can we renovate our swimming pool and make that much more functional and a much more attractive draw for the many swimmers in the community. So the board wanted to take a look at those three items. And so the biggest issue we had was, what can we do with this building without triggering the county requirements to bring it up to code? Seismic code for earthquake, environmental code for energy efficiency, accessibility codes. We did the very first step of this process was to reevaluate the engineering study that was done in 2008 by Gentry Engineering. And Terry's company hired a team of engineers. We have mechanical engineers, structural engineers, electrical engineers. They went through the building with a fine-tooth comb, and they determined that if you were required to upgrade to current building codes, it would cost $1.9 million. And that doesn't include any other money to do anything else. So the question is, could we do something here without triggering that extra expense, make the building more usable, make it in better shape, and then we can operate the building and see if it does in fact get increased use and becomes more valuable to the community. So Greg Tonello and I met with the county building department, the planning department, and the health department on November the 20th and had a conversation with them about the applicable issues related to code compliance. We also had a meeting here just last month, I don't remember the date, about 3 weeks ago, to follow up on some of those issues. First of all, for those of you who have built your own houses, you know about the building code. This is not your building code. This is a commercial building. It's under commercial building codes, which are somewhat different than what you might be familiar with. First of all, it is subject to the commercial building code and the health codes, because we do in fact have food and beverage operations that take place in this building. So we had the $1.9 million estimate for full code compliance. That was part of that $3.3 million to remodel the building. And then we said, okay, what can be done without triggering code compliance? First of all, this is a state building code. It's not something that the county has discretion on. It's not something that we have discretion on. We cannot spend more than $143,303 on this building without triggering that requirement to spend the extra 1.9. So we know what the budget is for this project. It's about $145,000. Okay, a bit more complicated because that doesn't include maintenance items. So what would that be? Okay, we just did a bunch of painting and remodeling this building. That's not included. If you want to replace this carpet, that's not included. If you want to replace the roof, that's not included. So those are ongoing items that you have to do to maintain the building. Those are not included in that limit of $145,000. Okay. Second thing that's not included is improvements that don't involve the building itself. So anything we're talking about doing to the pool, for example, would not be subject to that limit. So you could spend pool renovation money over and above the $145,000. Now, the other thing that you have to do, not only are you limited to $145,000 to make those improvements of remodeling, but you have to spend a minimum of 20% of that budget on accessibility improvements. Now, that is a minimum. You can spend more than that, but you must spend at least that. So what that says basically is you have to spend close to $30,000 on top of the $143,000 to deal with accessibility issues that this building has, and it has been. So that's what the code tells us we can do with this building. Now, we have other things going on here. One of the ideas, and the Commons Committee, and our chair, Lana Fish, sitting over here on the side, has gone through this building and thought long and hard about what could we do to this building to actually make it better for the members. And one of the ideas they had, of course, is wouldn't it be great if we could actually have a teen center that could function year-round and be a better space than putting them in the old snack bar deck over the shower room. But if you take an existing facility, which one of their ideas was to use this kitchen area behind us as a potential teen center space, but if you change the occupancy of that from a kitchen to a teen center, it triggers plumbing code requirements. So in addition to the accessibility requirements, you've got to make sure you have enough plumbing fixtures. Okay? So we would have to add plumbing fixtures to the building to be able to do something like that. So that's another thing we have to think about. Another issue which is huge is that if this facility is open to the general public, all the food preparation must be done in a licensed commercial kitchen. Okay, now we know that some folks have had weddings here, for example, and they've had Wayne McMurray provide the food and beverage for that. Well, Wayne prepared that food in the licensed commercial kitchen that's located at the Harman facility and brought it up here. We've also had events here where people have hired their own caterers for their events, and those caterers prepared the food for the event in their licensed commercial facility and then brought it over here for service. So that's a requirement that is not something that we can get around, something that is true. Now, here's the little sliver of exception, and the county is very, very adamant that they would watch us very closely on this issue. So we have to be extremely careful with how we handle this. There is an exception made for private member events, although the extent of the kitchen facilities you can have to support private member events are limited. So if you have a private event, you're not having it catered, you're not having Wayne do it, you're doing it yourselves, let's say it's a potluck, you can do that without using a licensed commercial kitchen. Okay? You've seen many, many clubhouses that homeowner associations have that have a little kitchen. People go in there and they have their dance, their wedding party, whatever. And we can, in fact, do that. Okay, we could go down just a little bit. I think there's another. Oh, that's it. Lucky you. Okay, now I need to go to the drawings. So what we did is we said, okay, Greg and Terry, how can we deal with these constraints on what we can do with this building and get the most bang for our buck? How could we approach that? And so here's the first thing we want to take a look at, and that's the site plan. I don't have one of those stars, but you are here. So here's the existing, oh, we're going to, oh yeah, I have to. I push the button. It's magic. So here's our existing parking lot. Here's our existing swimming pool. Here's the existing building. So the question is now, what can we do to actually enhance the pool? Well, last fall, we hired a company called Jones & Motivin. They design pools throughout the entire state of California, very knowledgeable about the codes. They took a look at our pool and did an analysis of what kind of issues we have with the pool. And basically they said, you know, the pool shell is in pretty good shape. Even given the age of this pool, it's still in pretty good shape. So what are the problems? And most of the problems are very technical. Wrong size pipes on the returns of the skimmers, not enough flow of water through the main return lines. You've got a pool deck that is not level, it doesn't have the right slope, it's unsanitary. The fence isn't up to code. The waiting pool's not up to code. So that's the kind of problems you have with an older pool, like this one, that we would want to address if we were going to spend some money to renovate the pool. So they came up with a list of potential changes to the pool. So when we went to talk to the county about this and said, okay, so we want to make this pool better for maybe another 15, 20 years. What does that mean? And the county basically said, you can't use your current shower room and locker room. And restroom. So Terry and Greg looked at, well, gee whiz, so how are we going to rebuild the restroom on the lower floor of this building? Very expensive because of all the structural issues. It's on the bottom floor of a two-story building. So the county suggested, why don't you guys just bring in a modular building, already designed to meet code, has all the plumbing fixtures, all your showers. We could even have lockers for people to use, and set it down on the site. Don't use the existing restroom at all. So that seemed like a good idea, and much more cost effective. So that was the first thing we kind of came up with. This is the existing pool mechanical room. We would leave that right where it is, but it needs to be upgraded. And then the waiting pool currently is over here. This plan puts it over there. And the reason being is when we had it located over here, it was on one of those remodel plans where this building was going to be demolished, so we pick up space. But if you don't demolish this building and it stays here, then you don't have adequate space to get the properly sized waiting pool. So what we've done, basically, the current picnic area is number 6, and the fence is right on this inside edge. We push out the pool deck towards the parking lot and pick up additional space, so it's not so crowded. And so all your families and everything that are having food and picnics and all that in there, will be right there with the kids, younger kids that are using the waiting pool. So they don't have to walk all the way over the other end of the pool, be separated from the rest of their folks while the kids are using the waiting pool. So that was one idea. Next idea was right here at the end where we currently have our restrooms. We would take the very end of that, which is right by the picnic area, and in the corner that's on that corner, we'd build a little snack shack. And so you would have a counter and a window by the picnic area, so people that are inside the pool enclosure could go up to the snack shack, and you'd have an outside where people could come up on a new walkway, and if they're at Big Beach, they could also utilize the snack shack. So that was the idea that came up. The remainder of that area would be used for storage of our pool equipment. So we would have to have it on the deck. So that's the concept, and here's how it lays out. Here's the new snack shack. And again, it would be serviced both directions. Up here, we would build a new kitchen, which would be in this space here, although it would be bigger than the existing space. That way we don't have to deal with these structural walls. We can use this existing opening. And that kitchen would be available for people that are having events in this room. The other thing we would do is we would gut this bar and we would open it up so that this space could operate as one room. Because this room is really quite too small for aerobics classes, for dance activities and all that. If you had the hardwood floor going all the way through, put some skylights in there to make that a brighter room, put a partition between where you could open and close it so you could use the rooms as separate meeting spaces, then that area would certainly have more functionality than its current configuration. So that was the first concept. We improved the functionality of this space. We also improved the access between this room and that other room by taking out these windows and doing some additional things with doors and whatnot. So that was one concept there to make these spaces work better both together and separately. The other concept is we have a real problem with tables and chairs, as you know. Storing them, moving them around, they're way too heavy, it's difficult. So the concept is this space over in here, this space over in here would become table and chair storage. So just right out, convenient, everything's on caddies, it would work really, really well. So that's the concept of making this space work better. So that's the first idea. Second idea is, gee whiz, if we do this, remember we're going to have to upgrade these restrooms. the anterooms that are currently in those restrooms as part of the restrooms themselves, we believe we can get the number of fixtures we need and the handicap accessibility into that same space. So we gut out the entire interior of that restroom, use that entire space to bring that up to code. So that is kind of a project. It's got one other feature that I think some members of the audience might like. We have a lot of clubs that use these facilities, and it's really a pain for them to have to haul all their stuff back and forth from home every time they want to have an event. So we would create, back in the deck area, we would create storage that would be lockable for clubs, so they could have a space with big double doors, open them up, have shelves in there, store their items here on site. So that's what the upper floor would look like. There's one other issue, of course, and that's accessibility. Remember that 20%? Okay, so the way the code works is you start at the parking lot and you work towards the building. So the first thing we would do, of course, is get up to code handicap parking stalls. That's relatively cheap. And then we would rebuild that walkway so it's level, and that's relatively cheap. And we have that in a reserve study. Wouldn't be new money. But then, whoops, the slide went away. Then, an elevator. So right now, this is the primary entrance into the building. Just beyond that entrance, there would be an elevator so you could get up to the second floor. We had a lot of people last summer and fall when we were talking about this building saying, trying to bring a vehicle up here and unload handicapped persons at this upper level is very problematical. So we put an elevator in as part of the upgrades there. So that kind of takes care of this floor. Downstairs, like I said, this would become a snack bar and storage area. The pool would be out the way I said. So that's kind of where we are on the project right now. It's our best thinking of what we could probably do to have a reasonably priced project that would get some benefit to the membership. And Terry, I guess I need to ask the board if they have any questions.
Herb, start with you. No, I'm good. Susan?
Yeah, I'd like to just understand this remodel seems to be fairly extensive, and so it's way beyond the 143,000. So the 143,000 that we're allowed to spend without triggering code upgrades is what? Like the elevator or what?
It's a good question, and we do not have all those numbers in place. We have some of them. But there's some significant ones. If Greg was here, he would tell you the elevator is probably in the order of 30 to 40K, about 40K, so 40,000. But remember, that's not in the 143. That's over and above. So you would meet your entire 20% requirement for handicapped accessibility just by installing your elevator. So that would work. You have to spend it anyway. You have to spend 38,000 anyway. So it's doable. It's doable. What I'm suggesting is that we think about, you got $145,000, you can't spend any more than that, so why don't you prioritize all the stuff you want to do and just go down the list until you get as much done as you can afford. And the first thing would probably be enhancing this meeting space, in my opinion. And that would be the user-accessible service kitchen, the table and chair storage, widening the doors here, combining these rooms, putting in the closed storage cabinets. All of that is definitely something we could do for $143,000. So I mean, that first thing could be done, obviously. The next piece would be converting the existing kitchen into a teen center. You know, if we couldn't do that as part of the original phase, then maybe that gets done at a later date. The next thing you could do then is deal with converting those lower restrooms into a snack bar and storage area. I mean, you could do without a snack bar for a while. It's not the core of your business, which is to have meetings. So, I mean, there are ways we could prioritize at 143, Susan. But the other thing is, remember the pool, we already have an estimate on that from the Jones and Bodman report, which we had last fall. It was in the special report. It was on the website. The board got copies. And this does not include a little bit of the deck expansion, and it does not include that modular building, but that was about $220K to do all that pool work that I talked about. We know the cost of the possible pool enhancements. Beyond those basic remodels, we could put some solar panels in to heat the water and lower our cost of operation. We know those are in the range of about $30,000. We could put the competitive swimming changes in. So we have the 4 or 5 items that are in the Jones and Monovan report to make the pool work better for swim events. That's about $18,000. We could put in a water slide on the deck. Is that shown on the drawing? I don't think so. No. One thing we can do is, remember we did the survey last summer of the pool users? Families were really excited about having a water slide. This isn't going to be a big water slide. It's going to be 20 feet high. It's going to sit on the deck. And it's going to be located right about there. And that would be about $15,000. And I can assure you it would get a lot of use. We can add water play features to the wading pool for about $20,000. If you wanted, you could put a spa in there for about $15,000. So if you did all that, it's about another $90K. So we're looking at projects. We're looking at a project that's probably in the order of about $500,000. It's beyond what's in the reserve study. Rough. Could be 600, could be 700, could be 400, but that's the ballpark.
Okay, and maybe Tammy can answer this question more about the current work that's going on with the pool. I think is the new heater and the pool cover and a lift, a chair lift for handicap accessibility, that kind of stuff, right?
That's good. That's correct.
That's already in the plan before this. Is that going to be done before we open here in a couple months?
Those items will be done before the pool opens in May.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I like the idea about the teen center, and that I know will be on high on my priority list. So, Bob?
Okay. Thank you. We've got this figure of $140,000. What's the time restraint on that before we can spend another $143,000 without keying upgrades?
You would have to look like a different project. So let's say we decided we wanted to spend $250,000 to renovate this floor. And we go into the county with the first $145,000, and we come back the next year with we're going to have problems with that. Now, if you decide you were going to do this project as a project, and then you were going to do the lower floor later, or maybe you were going to do the teen center later, you might be able to phase that.
That was my thought, was if we did this, let's say this area here, and that came in at under $145,000, and completed that project, and then submitted plans to, hey, this worked out, let's renovate the kitchen and turn it into a teen center, and that came in at $140,000. That could be done without triggering everything.
That's a great question for the building department. I think Bill answered it. I mean, it really kind of has to make it feel like a completely different project, which kind of relates to a different building. That if it's another improvement to the same building within the same confines of the walls, it's considered part. It's just a phase of a bigger project.
Okay. And the other question I had, would the purchase or the addition of the modular, with the purchase of the modular building, since it is a separate building altogether and not part of the renovation, is that not covered under that $143,000?
That's correct. It's over and above.
So that would not trigger.
Right. And in fact, it might be a lease operation. The question Bob asked is about that modular building. That is not included in the 143. And in fact, we might lease it as opposed to buy it. We don't, we haven't investigated that, but it would be separate.
Okay, Yuri?
No.
Stephen?
As the board liaison to the Commons Committee, I know that they've been very active in making suggestions and analysis, and Bill referred to Lana Fish's walkthrough. I'm curious what the Commons Committee, and I think there's a subcommittee focused on the community center, whether they have any thoughts on these most recent plans.
All right, is that, are you done?
I'm basically calling on Lana who's raising her hand to present that, because I think that's very important.
But then you're done.
So I am.
Okay, thank you. All right, we can start with questions from the audience, and we'll start then with Lana in response to Steve's question.
This is more a comment. I like what I see, generally speaking, and thank you, Terry and Bill. Of course, there's the Commons Committee, and we've got two subcommittees, the Community Center Subcommittee and the Swimming Facility Subcommittee. There are other ideas that have surfaced since we last spoke, Bill. Actually, we have a new
I'm surprised.
I know, we shouldn't be. We're passionate, of course, as you know, about this building and having a member space. So I'd love to give you our delightful drawings just to add to possible concepts. I guess the main feature is the teen center. All of us are very excited about having a good space for our teen center. And actually, Mr. Chapman, this is your idea. Rather than having the teen center here, we realized we had another opportunity of perhaps putting the teen center downstairs, where the existing locker rooms and dressing rooms are downstairs, and pulling it into the admin center, or the admin space downstairs, and then along with the modular restrooms, also have a modular admin building on the deck on the east side of the pool. So I guess to wrap it up, I like what I see. We'd love to talk more. I guess that's it.
For those of you in the audience that may not have followed exactly what Lana was talking about, when we did our walkthrough, we looked at two potential locations for the teen center. And one of the locations was this kitchen area, which is not used. It just sits there, and so why not get it out and use it? The other thing about that is, like I said, if we convert that to an occupancy use, it triggers an extra requirement for toilet facilities. There is existing restrooms in the back of the kitchen, which could be easily converted to meet the extra need for not only fixtures, but to make them accessible, which the current ones are not. So that kind of works well with the teen center. What Lana was talking about is the other concept we had, which is to use this space down here. This is the locker and shower room currently. This is the entry to the pool. This is the offices and storage for the pool operation. This is the entry here to the stairs. So the idea is, could you take this big rectangle and turn it into a teen center, and then take these office spaces and add them to this building out here? And the answer is probably not. Building department said that there would be some real issues with some structural things there. We're going to go ahead and look at that option and cost it out. But there are a lot of these internal walls that are bearing walls. And so it gets rather expensive pretty quickly when you start wanting to modify those. And so it may not be a very cost-effective option, but it is the second option that we looked at, and we're going to do some rough costing on it just to see if it is feasible. My gut feeling is that one thing would be well in excess of the 145, just that one thing. But we'll know for sure when we go down the road on that.
All right, so
question? Sandy?
Wait, Sandy, but George, oh, you got one?
I have a comment or suggestion about something that's small, but it's real important to me and people that have vision and visibility issues. The main entrance to this building has one step, and if you look at it, the tiles are all chipped. That's from people, when they come out of the building, it all looks the same, and they stumble as they're going down. So if you could either make that a gentle ramp, or put the tile on the edge of a different color, and put lights by that, it would really help.
Good suggestion.
Any other in the back, sir? Just microphone, please, and please state your name and Charlie Hart. Just on the pool, could we do something to improve the gutter system? And I can make all the water filters through a couple drains on either side of the pool. Could we possibly have a wraparound gutter or gutters on either side? Would help, I think, with the leaf issue. Certainly would help with swimming in the waves. And
sure. What Charlie was talking about, for those members that maybe don't get involved in pools that much, you have three basic ways of collecting water to go back through your mechanical systems. It has to be filtered, has to be chemically treated, has to be returned to the pool. And so typically you'll take some of that water out of the bottom of the pool, you'll take some of that water out of the perimeter of the pool, so you can capture water from both zones and take it back to your mechanical room. There are three ways you can capture that surface water. One way is the way this pool was built, which happens to be the cheapest way, which is to have skimmers. So you have little boxes in the side of the pool, and the water goes into boxes and returns. The other option, which is what Charlie's talking about, is to have a gutter. Many of you have seen that. You have the pool wall, and then you have a little gutter with another wall, and the water goes over that smaller wall into the gutter, into a drain. The third way, and I actually built a pool with this style at Sea Ranch, is called a rimless pool, and you may have seen those. They have no gutter, they have no wall. The water is actually at the deck level. It flows over that section of deck into a drain that's located outside the pool itself. That particular system was designed for competitive swim. And the reason for that, and it first got used in Olympic events. The reason being is when you're a swimmer, you want to have as still water as possible. Well, if you have a wall and the waves go against the wall, they're going to rebound off. If you have no wall, water just flows over the side. So that's how the rimless pools came into existence. The gutter pool is better than the skimmer pool. The rimless pool is better than the gutter pool. So that's basically the systems. What Charlie's talking about is, while we're looking at the redesign of this, especially if we're going to put a new concrete deck in, should we look at the possibility of changing the water return system on the pool? I can certainly ask Jones and Monovan to take a look at that, give us some rough order of magnitude cost. They build all kinds of pools, so I think that's fairly easily done, Charlie.
Thanks. And I just want to say I like the whole slide, the jacuzzi, the solar, that whole everything you're doing to the pool. I think that's great. The little fountain thing for the kids, the better kiddie pool. So yeah, and then the bathrooms. Be good to have some decent mildew-free bathrooms. So it'd be nice also.
All right, another question, Phil?
Mine's focused back on the pool too. It's stealing one of Charlie's concept, and that's a competition-ready pool. We do have a Sharks team here that utilizes our pool, and the idea being that they could do limited meets if we had a pool to that standard.
And a high school team too.
And a high school team. So it'll be much more community focused, something for our kids to do, and something for us to support as adults, which I really like that. The other question, Bill, is any of this going to enhance the season of use of the pool, make it a little longer?
None of these changes have anything to do with the hours of operation. You can make that decision as a management decision with our existing pool, with the new facility. There are two things that would be useful if you want to operate the pool out of the current time zone. The first would be something the board has already approved. When we replaced the heater this spring, we increased the size of that heater. Cost us about an extra $5,000, but we increased the size of that heater so it has enough BTUs to heat the pool in the wintertime. Doesn't mean it's cheap, but it means it's possible, because that's a 15-year heater. So we figured if anytime in the next 15 years we wanted to start running the pool year-round, we should upgrade the heater while we replace it, and that has already been done. The second thing is, number 3, the second thing is we have purchased pool cover, which is actually on the pool right now. And so that is another thing that was one of the issues that we had dealt with using the pool in the cooler times of the year. And then the third thing is, if we do put the solar in, we do get a lot of solar radiation in the off-season in this climate, and we could in fact mitigate some of the cost of operating the pool in the cooler time of the year. So there are a number of features about this, in particular the solar feature, that might make that more palatable financially. But at the end of the day, it's just a budget decision.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Kevin, I have a question too.
Kevin Harvey, 778 is my UDL. The major problem with the pool is it's closed.
Kevin, can you hold the mic up so we can hear you?
Is this better?
Thank you.
Okay. It's been closed for 6 months now. It's been due to open for another month. I would like something similar to the study at the restaurant done with the pool facility to see how we can both save money and staffing it and energy use-wise. So as we plan this, we could maybe make better decisions about, features of the pool that might save us money to go to year-round operation. And I've seen little or nothing done in that regard. I mean, we talk about doing pretty projects, but we don't talk about operating.
I understand what you're saying, which really isn't a part of this, but my question would piggyback on top of yours based on, which would make it trigger as a potential part of this, I think, and that is in your discussion of the improvement and all this kind of stuff, that private member parties and stuff like that, and I guess my question is, with the swim team use on this, does that trigger it as a public facility, or is the swim team Hidden Valley, and even though we may have some outside, can that affect that trigger that you're talking about? Because I keep hearing about them being as a part of the school, and there's other school events that I would like to see us host out here, like grad night, which I know we have issues doing it. So that's why I throw that question out to you as well.
Yeah, you're asking a good question. This is an issue that this community has wrestled with for a long time, probably 10, 15 years. What is the function of this building? Is it a community clubhouse for the members, or is it somehow a public venue for all of South County? And it's done both. We've used it both ways over the past years. What I was referring to is the health code related to kitchens. And in that case, you cannot have the general public in your facility consuming food and beverage that's not prepared in a commercial kitchen. You cannot. Against the code. Okay, that's what I was referring to. Now, in the case of the swim team, we've also had other users of the pool. Some of this has been normal guests, some of it's been pushing the boundaries of what constitutes a guest. Your issue there is more of a liability issue relative to the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act distinguishes between public facilities and private facilities. The more you look like a public facility, because you have the prom here, or you have fundraisers for the hospital, or whatever, the more you are liable action under that particular statute. So they are two separate issues. They're not easily resolved because at some point in time we have to come up with a definition of what is a member group. And we've struggled with that also. We've not done the research to figure out how other people do it, what are the legal constraints, but that's an issue the board's probably going to have to deal with.
I agree. Thank you. And Kevin, I apologize for cutting you. I didn't mean to cut you off on that, but I thought both of them would or could be relevant. But insofar as the year-round use, I think you're aware, as a number of other people are as well, that we are starting off with this trial basis this year. We are doing surveys with the potential goal of the possibility of, once again, reopening up the pool so that it would be available for year-round use. And that's something that the board has on its agenda to address at a later time. If I remember correctly, and there's some people here that have been here a lot longer than I have, at one point the pool used to be open year-round. And demographics changed and it wasn't used, it was closed down. And but again, demographics have changed again, and we are now a different community than we were even 10 years ago. And we have a lot more users out there and everything else. So what goes around comes around, which is one of the reasons why we're looking for all the changes, or some of the changes that we're doing now. So it's a very good comment, and I appreciate that input as well. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Kevin?
No, suffice, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions out there related to this? Mona?
Well, again, not a question, but Bill, I think...
Wait, till we get a microphone. We want you on speaker.
Thank you. From the aspect of the community center, the group of your fellow members that have been working on this were under the assumption that once the new Harman complex is up and going, that would be open to public events. And then generally speaking, this building would be for members. This would be member space. So members and their guests. I don't know how we enforce the guests. I guess that might be an issue we'd have to deal with. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, at least from the Commons Committee point of view, that's the pathway we're taking. So that might also require some public input, member input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With somebody over here? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Johnson, UBL 315. And I just had a real quick question about this existing room we're sitting in, and then this new room over here. Say, if you were going to have a wedding, would these two rooms open up to each other? And then also, would weddings be more marketed towards the new Harman facility other than this building?
Two questions there. The first one is, if you have a wedding, would you be using those spaces? Typically, what Wayne's left now, so I can't get the answer from him, but typically, this room is used, and these rooms are usually ancillary, so either they're dancing over here, or they have buffet tables over here, or something like that. They have a bar in there. Typically, you don't have people sitting at tables in this room and also over there, but we do it from time to time. So given that these will be less of a barrier, we'll have a wider opening, I think that space will get used more often with this space than it does currently. Right now, it's probably less than 25% of the time do we have people that are actually sitting at dining tables in this room and that room as well. But I think you'll see more of that. So actually your capacities have a capability of increasing a little bit. And the second question had to do with something I totally forgotten. Cheryl, what was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is an issue that we talked about a lot last year. So one of the reasons the board decided to try to plan both of these facilities simultaneously is because this whole idea of meetings, especially meetings with food and beverage, can happen in both spaces. So how do you parse that out? And at one time, the concept was that all meetings of food and beverage would happen at the Harman facility. And that was a concept the board was kind of leaning towards, because, you know, why duplicate your effort, etc. But then we had a lot of people saying, no, wait a minute, you know, we may want to have something here where we have food and beverage, but we don't necessarily want to go down there and hire Wayne's people to provide that. So can we do, and so that's where this idea of a service kitchen came from. So you could have food and beverage in spaces here as well. So it actually would technically be available in both spaces. The issue the board's going to have to deal with is this public-private issue, because the health department will shut us down if we're trying to conduct public events in here without the adequate kitchen facilities. Okay.
All right, Jim, you got your hand up, buddy. You're hiding behind the post.
Yeah.
Like
Jim's over here, Donna.
And then we'll do the white shirt next.
So many
See who
inducements to bring in solar heating. And I'm wondering if you redo the roof here, if you added solar heating now, you could enhance the capability of heating the pool as well.
Jim has a soft voice. He asked about whether we could incorporate solar heating as part of a project of replacing the roof. There's a lot of structural issues with solar heating, and so it's not always as simple as putting it on. If you're talking about photovoltaic, where you're trying to generate electricity, that's one thing, but what we're heating is water. So we have two options. One is to use solar hot water heaters that are located on the ground on some sort of structures. But we did look very carefully at the possibility of using the existing roof on the wing over here as a location for the solar. There are some benefits to that. You can get a little bit better angling of your collectors so they're more efficient. You also get them out of the way of potential vandalism if they're located on a roof versus, say, on the bank down below the propane tanks. So we're looking at both of those ideas, Jim.
to answer your question. And gentlemen, I can't see who you are in the white shirt and hat.
Eric Schaefer, 7412. My question was, when we do swim meets with the Sharks, or if we were at some point going to offer our facility for a Middletown swim team so we could compete against Kelseyville and Lakeport, which now have swim teams as of this year. We never use this building, especially if the bathrooms are portables. Maybe that wouldn't affect the ADA requirements. I'm not sure what the definition of a building is, if it's a pool as well, or how that's sliced and diced. And the second thing I wanted to do was commend the board. I've lived here for 11 years, and the first couple of years, it really was all about golf. And when I was on the Parks Committee, we'd come in and ask for porta potties or new swings, and we would be laughed at and ridiculed. And over the years, there's been a lot of improvements in this community that are beyond the scope of golf, and I just wanted to make sure that I recognized you on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Right, do we have any more questions out there? Lana?
Yes, I just need a clarification.
Lana? Wait.
I can
We
yell.
want you on record.
I can yell. I just wanted a clarification. So if it was decided this was members only, this facility, that would not kick in the public health requirement for commercial? Is that correct?
You're exactly right.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, regarding the kitchen issue and public-private, if we were to have a service kitchen and food was prepared off-site, would the warming of that food on this facility trigger the commercial, corporate, or commercial kitchen requirements? So we could have heating facilities here as long as the food was prepared somewhere else for an event here, and that would not trigger it.
Yes, Bob is exactly right. The issue is the food preparation, not the food service. That's why you can have caterers come to a site that is not licensed and serve food. because the food was actually prepared in a licensed facility. So that applies here as well. We have had caterers come here, and that's also why we're getting away with our food and beverage operation servicing events here as well.
All right, anybody else? Sandy?
Related to that, Cindy Bale, 692. I just want to be real clear. So this means that if we have a club meeting and we want to use this space, would we have a sink where we could wash our lettuce, and a refrigerator where we could store our water bottles, and a microwave?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what that kitchen would look like. We're talking about a space about 8 by 12 or maybe 10 by 12. We haven't actually laid it out yet. But basically what this would be more than the kitchen at the activity center. So if you go to the activity center, there is a kitchen attached to that. That kitchen basically has a refrigerator and a sink and a microwave in storage. This kitchen would be a bit more than that, but the health department is very skittish on this issue, especially because of the way we've been using the building in the past. We have a mixed opinion about dishwashers, for example. We think we can probably put dishwashers in and provide members with crockery and silverware, but we probably have to have a 3-compartment sink then. The other big issue is stovetops. Can you have stovetops? And the issue is, are you going to be frying foods or not? If you're frying foods, now you've got to go to commercial hoods. Commercial hoods are extremely expensive. So this is the way it gets into this detail. We're not going to determine all this today, Sandy, but what we're thinking, what we're thinking is this. Lots of counter space, lots of places you can plug in coffee pots. Someone could bring a crock pot with something they did at home and heat it up. Combination, warming, microwave units, definitely a large refrigerator, probably a dishwasher, and a sink. It might be a 3-compartment, might be a single sink, don't know yet. You know, you don't get the answers until you actually submit the plans. So the biggest issue is going to be the cooktop, because it's food preparation. But you know, hey, maybe I want to boil some water for my spaghetti. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot here we don't know the answers to yet, but I can assure you that we'll push the envelope. But the health department is very adamant about this public use issue. Very adamant. They will not give an inch on that issue.
All right, Don?
I actually have a question myself. If we potentially made the Greenview area more geared towards public events like weddings, proms, whatever, wouldn't that also ease the traffic at the gates and the need for extensive guest lists if people didn't have to actually come into the gates for those events?
Yeah.
And it's just something else.
The answer to that is yes. But most definitely so. And that'll really come into play when we get to our centralized gate system. When you only have 1 or 2 people there watching the monitor at security, trying to keep track of all the gates, and if you've got 150 people coming in for an event, yeah, it'll make a big difference on that part.
This has been a major issue for our security department for quite some years. The biggest problem we have is with people that don't have guest lists. I want to have a fundraiser. We don't know who's coming.
All right, oops, sorry about that. Anybody else out there with any questions related to the community center? I can't, some people I can't see. Oh, Jackie, okay.
Right now we have a bar here. What if some of these clubs and committees want to have a luncheon, they bring in potlucks and everything, will they be able to serve wine and beer, or will they be restricted for alcoholic beverages?
Extremely important and difficult question to answer. Thanks, Jackie. The issue has to do with the licensing of this building for the service of alcoholic beverages. And there are different levels of licensing. Our current license does allow us to serve alcoholic beverages out of the bar. We will probably retain that license because undoubtedly there are going to be people who want to have an event here who want our food and beverage operation to put up a bar. We're just not going to dedicate that much space to it. We'll have a service bar that we can set up for the serving of alcoholic beverages. The bigger question is, okay, I want to bring my own, and are we licensed for that? And the answer is yes. As members and guests of a facility, we can have our license cover members bringing their own alcoholic beverages for events. Now, we are going to also want to make sure that we regulate those so we don't have issues that come up with that relative to safety of people in automobiles, trashing the building, these drunken committee members, So we got to deal with the nitty-gritty, but generally, yes, we can do those kinds of things.
I think it sounds like one of the things that the board is going to have to deal with related to any of these issues is to come up with a definition of member guest and the ratio and come up with that ratio that's acceptable to the county, not whether or not we necessarily want it. But where you got like a wedding party and you got 2 families or 3 families that are there which represent the members, and you have in 20 families that are really guests, does that qualify under those conditions? And I think that's something that the board is going to have to address in the future when we get on with this. So, any other questions from anybody out there related to the community center? Okay.
Now, I have a question.
Where's your light?
One of the things that Jones and Mottevin are going to be doing for us, the board approved a addition to their contract to allow them to do the preliminary design work on the pool improvements. And what we're telling them right now is to go ahead with the suggestions that are in their report. We got to deal with the deck, the circulation issues, and all that. But when you get to pool enhancements, we don't have to do any of that. So the question is, what do we want to do? So last year we did do a survey of swimming pool users during the summer when they were here. And the 2 most popular things on that list was the water slide and the spa. And yet there's no spa shown on that plan you saw today, because the board was very skittish about getting into the public spa business. There are a lot of issues, of course. So I'd just like to see a show of hands of how many folks here in the audience want us to pursue that avenue, find out more about the spa, because even if we don't build it now, we have to plumb it now. So if we're going to have a spa on that piece of land, and we're going to tear up those decks and put all new piping in, we got to make sure it would support a spa if in fact we wanted one. So just showing how many people think a spa is a good idea. So these are the non-spa people. You're surrounded by spa people. So it's about a 40% range there. Board, at some point, we're going to have to give Jones and Mottevin some direction on this issue, so be thinking about it. We already know the cost, roughly. So if there's issues related to operations of spas that you know information about, let me know, because then I can ask Jones and Mottevin to give us answers to those issues.
So if we incorporate that into the Harman facility plan, Terry, then we don't have to deal with that issue here, right? We just have the spa down there off the back deck, and we can have tennis courts. We can have the spa serviced by the bar person on there. Yeah.
Swim up the bar.
Swim up bar, yeah. All right, any other questions?
All right. Yeah, Jerry Simpson, 3119. In regards to the spa, I would be in favor of it with restrictions for children being there. Been to a lot of hotels, a lot of campgrounds, where 6, 7, 8-year-old kids just run over the spot and the adults can't even get in.
Scary. Especially when you consider just the incident that happened in our lake over Easter.
Jerry, remind me to tell you my spa joke after the meeting.
All right, Bill?
As far as the plumbing on the spa, it's almost a good thing if we don't have a good deck out there. No real problem tearing that up. Put it in a spa and put it in a decent deck around it.
There's also a space issue. If you take a look at that site, there's not a lot of room there. It's a relatively tight pool area. Our architects commented on the fact that the current design standards are for a much larger, spacious pool deck than what we currently have. That extension of the pool deck is certainly going to open up this end. I mean, if right here, this is the existing fence, and we're picking up all this extra space out here, it will have some more functionality than it does now. But where would you put a spa? You know, you might put a picnic area, maybe you could tuck it up in this hillside. There are some space constraints. We could do it if you want to.
I'm sure we can figure that out. Lon?
Well, just to consider.
Yeah.
What's your own?
No, it's just a comment, just to keep on the top of your head as you're having to deal with all these possibilities. From the Commons Committee's perspective, we really hope that with these improvements at the pool, especially extending it to full year availability, we can really build use of this facility and make it more valuable to the community and therefore have a better reason to spend money on it. So as far as the spa is concerned, it just wouldn't make any sense if we didn't at least plumb it. You know, get the plumbing in at this time. We could build it later or not, but just don't cut any of our options off for, you know, years down the line. Just.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy to do.
To increase the hours.
Just a couple of different piping issues.
Season, you're going to want to use a spa in
That part's
December.
pretty easy.
All right.
All right, shall we wrap this up? I think so, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank everybody for their comments. And we'll talk to you again. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.